Show here, Russian President Vladimir Putin is responding to the news that the United States is imposing sanctions on Russia's largest oil companies. Speaking to reporters in Moscow yesterday, Putin called the move an unfriendly act. He went on to say it is an attempt to put pressure on Russia, but added no self-respecting country ever does anything under pressure. Putin brushed off the idea that sanctions will have a significant impact, but conceded that some losses are expected. According to the Wall Street Journal, the new sanctions hit at the core of Russia's faltering economy amid the ongoing war in Ukraine. So, Joe, these sanctions do require some collective action across the globe.
Yeah, they really do. And David Ignatius of the Wall Street Journal, New York Times, other outlets, Washington Post reporting these sanctions actually have teeth. They could really have a significant impact on Russia's already faltering economy. The question, the Wall Street Journal.
The economy is already beginning to falter. This adds pressure, I was told by a European diplomat yesterday, a likely possibility that the Russian people will see more and more what this war is costing them and may begin to respond appropriately. There's still an awful lot that the United States could still do to tighten the screws further with Putin. But this is a significant step, especially after President Trump seemed to back away from taking a tough line against Putin last week after meeting with Zelensky. He was supposedly shouting at Zelensky, President Zelensky of Ukraine, telling him to take the deal, and now he's come back hard. But again, we have to see: will this really apply to India? Will Chinese entities be prevented from slipping around the sanctions? Those are the kind of questions I think that people want to look at carefully.
We're going to be looking at those questions, and obviously it's going to play an important role on whether it has the impact that the president says he wants it to have. But Katty, there's another story inside of this story that is actually quite striking to me as I was reading through all the reports yesterday. And that is a cooperation between Donald Trump and European allies. Of course, you had NATO Secretary General there, but you also had the Wall Street Journal reporting that the United States and the European allies, Donald Trump and leaders of Europe, are now starting to see their way forward to a possible ending to this war. And it all started with that coordinated approach inside the White House right after the Anchorage summit.
Yeah, I mean, certainly the Europeans are not giving up on whatever diplomacy and leverage and military leverage they have. You've got Zelensky today meeting the king in the UK. He'll then go down and meet Starmer, and Starmer is pushing for more long-range European missiles to be given to the Ukrainians. So it's not like the Europeans have kind of backed away from either the negotiation effort or the military effort. I mean, their military ramp-up is taking a long time, but they want... They definitely want the Americans to know that they have a seat at the table. I mean, I've just come back from Central Europe, and one of the questions I keep getting asked is, why does President Trump keep siding with Vladimir Putin? And it seems to be a truism, right? He backs away, he puts more pressure, he backs away and puts more pressure. And that's what's so interesting about this sanctions package, is that it is a concrete thing that President Trump, if he's prepared, as David says, to hit down on the Chinese and on the Indians as well. It's a concrete thing that he's doing that hurts Vladimir Putin. And we can see, Lemire, from Putin's response. And if you think how reluctant he's been to do anything that will counter Vladimir Putin or put pressure on Moscow, what makes you think, what has happened in the last few days, Jonathan, that has made him think, OK, this is the right moment to do this?
Yeah, we've had months' worth of angry rhetoric from Trump to Putin, which, of course, a shift from his first term. But this is the first time it's actually been followed up with concrete action. These are the first sanctions, in fact, of Trump's second term towards Russia. Got a reaction there from Moscow. And I think it is a slow impatience. This is not going to get done. And Trump, we know, is desperate for this war to end. He is crusading for a Nobel Peace Prize. He keeps checking off the list of the other conflicts he has allegedly solved. But this one remains incredibly stubborn. stubborn. So, Michael, there is a sense, though, this is certainly a degree of pressure. It's not full out yet. But it's a step. And it comes on the heels of Trump saying to Zelensky, no, we're not going to give you Tomahawks. So it is still not a full-on assault against Moscow, but it does seem to be at least in the right direction. What's your read of where does this go? Is this still status quo in the conflict itself?
It's not status quo. I mean, as you say, this isn't a magic pill, and a lot depends on enforcement. There's a 30-day wind-down period, which allows companies to extricate themselves from transacting with Rosneft and Lukoil. But one of the things to note is there's already a pariah effect, right? Chinese and Indian state oil companies have said they are going to stop importing crude from these two companies. That's no small thing. You know, even in the midst of Trump taking these calls with Putin and sort of taking on a seemingly pro-Russian position, objectively pro-Russian position, he's also said something interesting, which is he wants to chip away at Russia's energy economy. But it's always been, you guys do it first, right? He told the European Union, you should put 100% tariffs on China. He did 50% tariffs on India, and everyone said, well, how come you aren't going after your buddy Xi, right? That's the bigger business partner with Russia. But other things have been happening behind the scenes. The Wall Street Journal, I think a week or two ago, reported that U.S. intelligence is sharing information with Ukraine. Why? Because Ukraine, for the last several months, has been striking at Russia's oil refineries, export terminals, and oil depots. And in the month of August alone, they've done about 58 strikes with their drones and missiles, all homegrown kit, nothing Western, right? But the fact that U.S. intelligence is helping them hit Russia inside Russia where it hurts is an interesting data point here. So I think with Trump, it's, as you quite rightly say, he wants this war to end, right? And he's almost willing to do it at any cost. He told Zelensky, why don't you give up all of Donetsk? The last time he did that, the Ukrainians said that'd be like you giving up all of eastern Florida, and that kind of shut Trump up for a while. But he tried it again. The important thing is, though, and this is a kind of buried lead in all of this stuff, right? Putin picks up the phone, calls Trump. Instead of Tomahawks, Trump says, hey, let's go to Budapest and do the whole Alaska thing again. When that's happened in the past, the shelf life of these sort of Russian distractions have typically lasted months, if not weeks. This one lasted about 7 days, right? And even the White House, according to CNN reporting, was shocked that Trump decided to go for sanctions and to do it this quickly. So I do think it's fair to say that he's growing increasingly frustrated, if not exasperated, with Putin. I think he came to office thinking, the force of my charisma and my good camaraderie with Vladimir would end this war. Russia would do this as a personal favor to me. No, they still are engaged in a war of conquest. They want the whole thing. And I think he's beginning to realize that.